So, just why use a primary limited palette, you might ask, especially if you're already an established artist? These are the questions that I have today on Tiny Studio Big Ideas podcast. And here we talk about all things that happen in the studio, not only technical sides of painting, but also about creativity and how creativity flows through us. So, in this discussion today, I really want to talk about the primary limited palette and why bother. It is always a beautiful concept to come back to the basics. And by limiting down and coming back to the basics, to the foundation of, in this case, color mixing, we often discover something new, something that we hadn't quite seen before. And I really do believe that this is a beautiful practice. So, what is the primary limited palette? It's a yellow, a red, and a blue. Not a warm yellow and a cool yellow, or a warm red and a cool red, and a warm blue with a cool blue. Just a yellow, a red, and a blue. And taking those colors and coming back to the basics. So, if you're an intermediate advanced artist, you pretty much know how to mix your colors. You know what you're looking for. You know what you want when you're coming to your painting. But when you come back and you get rid of all the extras on your palette, you come back to the limited palette, you are forced, or you put yourself in a position where you will need to create something that's going to work for your painting. So, in that sense, coming back to the primary limited palette, even if you're an advanced artist, is such a gift to come back and reestablish and grow and get faced with something that is not working for you because we get stuck in our patterns, and to figure out a new way, something different. It is a practice of expanding yourself in your studio, in front of your easel, working with the colors that you have. And let's talk about that for a second, because we all know we come into our studios, we do the things that we like to do, the things that work for us. So we have our colors, we use them, we learn how to mix them the way we like it, the way it works. And yes, of course, that's absolutely fine. But we can become stagnant in our colors. We can become confined in that unlimited creativity that is everywhere and all around us when we have set patterns, when we have set rules. When I come in the studio, I do this and this and this. When I lay out my colors, I lay out these colors because I know how to mix them and I know how to use them on my canvas. And again, that's great. But when you release all the extras and come back to your limited palette, your primaries, yellow, red, and blue. Doesn't matter if you're using a warm red or a cool red, that doesn't matter. A red, a yellow, a blue, and of course your white. And taking those colors and mixing them up, seeing exactly what are the secondary colors? How do they work using this yellow, this red, and this blue? And looking at the orange that you create, the secondary colors, the orange, the green, and the purple, and uh, seeing how they work. Then, if you're intermediate or advanced artist, take a cool yellow rather than the warm yellow that you just previously mixed, and see how the entire palette changes. And yes, it's subtle, but it is also a space of exploration and letting go of your habits and trying something new. So, in my understanding, in my world, in my tiny little studio, I often come back to my primary limited palette and begin to mix my grays, begin to work with various values of each of those colors. I'll create a painting with those colors. And, you know, it always works. It has never failed that I will come back to the primary limited palette and learn something new. Okay, I know how to mix my colors. I already know how to do that. But when you are creating your own colors and letting go of, let's say, trying to get the specific exact color and letting go of that and saying, okay, well, I can make this one. It's good enough. Let's see how that works. Because when you try something new using a different version of the orange, let's say, and you put it next to another different version of, let's say, a shadow color, you may come across a beautiful surprise. Something that when you step back, you go, oh, look at that. And you never would have found it if you kept using your regular, comfortable palette. You never would have found it if you kept mixing the same types of colors and went at your painting in the same kind of way. Comfort, will keep you comfortable. Step back, let go of the extras, and come back to your primary limited palette. Try it. Uh, go outside if you go plein air painting and just use these primary colors and see what happens. You know what? The positive thing about it, if the idea of letting go, of releasing the extras, makes you feel uncomfortable, the beautiful part of it is that you can go out to paint, especially with plein air painting, and you don't have to worry about your color harmony, how it's going to work, how you're going to put it together. All of your colors will mix together beautifully. As long as you're making your grays, you're going to have a pretty nice little painting. Some of the things that you will discover when you come to a primary limited palette is you can dive deeper into your composition, into the design of your painting. You're able to play with ideas that maybe you hadn't really reached out for before. And there's always positive areas when you come back to a primary limited palette. It's the same as when you come into your studio and you declutter and clean it out and get it all minimal. There's more space. There's more openness. There's a calmer feeling because you have altered things, which is always refreshing to creative people, which happen to be everybody out there who's breathing. But also, when you come back to a primary limited palette, you just, open yourself up to a greater expansion of your creative self. And if you're a beginner, obviously, this is the place to begin working with a primary limited palette because it will teach you everything you need to know about mixing colors. And it's easier to work with values. And you don't have to worry about color harmony. So, this is the place to be. If you're just beginning painting, start with this limited primary palette. You don't need to worry if it's a warm or cool or this or that. Just get a yellow, a red, and a blue and start, right? Just make sure that they're the primary colors, meaning that it's just yellow. It's just a yellow there. Primary colors are those colors that cannot be mixed by any other color. So begin with that, start playing around with it. You will find that you can mix all of your grays meaning not black and white gray, but a gray that is moving towards the yellow, or moving towards orange, or moving towards green, right? But it's toned down, and these toned down, grayed down colors will give your painting so much life. It will give your painting a sense of realism, a sense of comfort. It is something that we can accept visually, and it works. It just works. So I highly suggest this. Give it a try. If you're beginning, of course, start with a limited palette, a primary limited palette. And, if you're one of those advanced artists, I hope you're coming back once in a while and giving it a try, releasing all the fluff and all the extras and coming back to basics and just see what you can discover. All right, so if anybody's interested, especially you beginning artists out there, I do have a new mini course on the primary limited palette. I've got some seagulls on right outside my door. You can hear them. So go ahead and check that out. Right now, there is a $20 discount up until March 22nd. So in 2024. So if you are listening to this, be sure and go ahead and grab that discount. The cost of the course with the discount will be $29.99. All right. So with that, be inspired, be creative, and be you. Have a beautiful day.